Very good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Kiran Tajne ma'am is with us now. Uh, Ma'am, shall I proceed?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So very good afternoon, friends. Dr. Kiran Tajne, Professor Civil Department, Government College of Engineering, Nagpur, is with us now. I welcome you, ma'am, on the second lecture of yours on the topic fluid mechanics under trainer scheme sponsored by AICT, AICT Delhi. Now I request you, ma'am, please take over the session.
You are not audible, sir.
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, I request you to please take over the session.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Please switch off this transcription button. Actually, I am able to see what I am talking. Can you do this, please?
Ma'am, actually it is from your side.
Yes.
It is from your side, ma'am. Once you start sharing your screen, it will be disabled.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just a minute. I am sharing my slides. Yes. Is it visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Able?
Am I start? Shall I start?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Asif
Thank,
sir.
thank you, ma'am.
I welcome you all for the second lecture for gate preparation, which will be on hydraulic machines. I have given number of topics: kinematics of flow, then velocity triangle, and basics of hydraulic machine. I'll try to complete this portion in today's lecture. Okay, so let us start with the hydraulic machine or fluid machines. Okay. So what is actually fluid machines or fluid machine? It is a device that converts the stored energy of fluid into the mechanical energy and vice versa. The stored energy of fluid, just a minute. Stored energy of fluid usually appears in the form of pressure, velocity, or temperature, or it may be intermolecular thermal energy by virtue of its temperature, while mechanical energy is obtained by a rotating shaft. So nowadays, use of fluid machines is very wide in the industrial applications. So the major applications pertaining to electrical power generation, then aircraft or rocket propulsions, and in variety of medium and small scale industries, these fluid machines are used. Okay. So in electric power generation, as you know, the turbines are used, which are the main important components or power producing component of the unit, whole unit. Okay. So So for aircraft propulsion, compressors are used. And sometimes centrifugal compressors and axial flow compressors are used. Okay. So again, for industry where high pressure air is required, and this is used in almost all process industries. So here the centrifugal compressors are used. Okay. And for transmission and distribution of water or liquid, or the circulation of liquid pumps are incorporated in the industrial applications, and almost all industrial applications are involved in such applications and such operations of transmission and distribution, even in the circulation of liquid. So so the fluid machines are nothing but the turbines, pumps and compressors which are used in the industries. Okay, so let us start with the classification of fluid machines. So based on the direction of energy conversion, the fluid machines are classified as the turbines and pumps, compressors, fans or blowers. So in turbines, kinetic potential or intermolecular energy which is held by the fluid is converted in the form of mechanical energy of a rotating member. Okay. And in pumps, the mechanical energy from the moving parts is transferred to the fluid to increase its store energy by increasing either its pressure or velocity. So based on the direction of energy conversion, so machines are classified as turbines and pumps. Okay. Similarly, based on principle of operations, the fluid machines are classified as rotodynamic machines and positive displacement machines. Okay. So in rotodynamic machines, these nowadays these machines are used where energy conversion or energy transfer between fluid and the machine takes place due to the rate of change of angular momentum of the fluid in course of its continuous flow through a number of blade passages. Okay. So it may be comprising of one or more moving rows of blades. That means in this category, the rotodynamic machines, they should have the continuous flow of fluid through blade passage, and there has to be a relative motion between the fluid and the machine. Okay. Sorry. So uh, sorry for delay. So the in rotodynamic machines, there should be continuous flow of fluid through blade passages, and there has to be a relative motion between fluid and the blade of the machine. Okay, so this way we can tell that the principle of rotodynamic is based on the principle of fluid dynamics. Okay, so whereas in a positive displacement machine, what is done is that some mass of the fluid is taken as a closed system or entrapped under some locations of the machine, and then by the physical displacement of one of the boundaries, its volume is changed, and accordingly the pressure change is manifested. So, or vice versa, the pressure means high pressure is being converted to mechanical energy. This is in the case of the positive displacement machines. Okay, so in this case, this energy interaction takes place by changing the volume of the given amount or given mass of the fluid as a closed system by a physical movement of the boundary. That is why the name positive displacement machine has given or has come. Okay, so this type of machine is based on this type of principle, that is in the form of reciprocating piston cylinder. That means this principle is utilized by executing reciprocating motion of the piston in a cylinder while entrapping the certain amount of air or certain amount of water within it, and those machines are known as reciprocating pumps or reciprocating engines or compressors, depending upon the direction of the energy transfer. Okay, so based on these two principles of operation, we define one as rotodynamic machine and other as positive displacement machine. So, so next is the classification of fluid machines, which is based on fluid used in the machine. Okay. So first one is the turbine. Turbine and pumps are common. So turbines are called as hydraulic turbine when the water is used as a fluid. It is called as gas turbine when gas is used, and it is also called as steam turbine where steam is used as a fluid. Okay. Then pumps or compressors. In pumps, the water is used as a fluid, and in compressor, air is used. Okay. So let us see turbine. So here is the classification of turbine. We have seen the classification of fluid machines. Now we'll see the classification of turbines. So according to the type of energy at inlet, there are two types of turbines: impulse turbine and reaction turbine. So impulse turbine requires high head and a low rate of flow, and the Pelton wheel comes under this category, impulse turbine. Okay. In reaction turbine, it requires a low head and high rate of flow. And examples are Francis turbine and Kaplan turbine. Okay. So Pelton wheel is impulse turbine, and Francis and Kaplan wheel are the reaction turbine. So according to the direction of flow through runner, there is runner in the turbine. So according to the direction of flow through the runner, these are classified as tangential flow runner, radial flow runner or turbine, and axial flow turbine and mixed flow turbine. So the Pelton wheel is the example of tangential flow turbine, and remaining are the Francis radial flow is Francis turbine, then axial flow is the Kaplan turbine, and mixed flow, radial and axial mixed flow is the modern Francis turbine. So here we have seen turbine is of two category, reaction turbine and impulse turbine. So impulse example of impulse turbine is Pelton turbine or Pelton wheel, and Francis and Kaplan are the reaction turbines. So based on the head at the inlet of the turbine, it is classified as high head turbine, medium head turbine, and low head turbine. So high head turbine is Pelton wheel, medium head turbine is the Francis turbine, and low head turbine is called a Kaplan turbine. Similarly, according to the specific speed of turbine, low specific speed, medium specific speed, and high specific turbines are there. So Pelton wheel is low specific turbine, Francis turbine is medium specific speed turbine, and the Kaplan is the high specific speed turbine. So here there are always three categories. Then according to the specific speed of turbine, we have seen these three types: Pelton, Francis, and Kaplan. So type in Pelton wheel, the type of runner is slow, normal, and fast. For a slow runner, specific speed is 10 to 20. For normal, it is 20 to 28, and for fast Pelton wheel, the specific speed is 28 to 35. Okay. For Francis turbine, for slow runner, 60 to 120 is the specific speed. Then for normal Francis turbine, it is 120 to 180, and for fast Francis turbine, it is 180 to 300. And the specific speed for Kaplan is very, very high, and it is 300 to 1000. So according to the disposition of turbine shaft, these are called as horizontal shaft turbine and vertical shaft turbine. So Pelton wheel is a horizontal shaft turbine, and Francis and Kaplan turbines, these are the vertical shaft turbines. Now we will see the Pelton wheel. This is the picture of Pelton wheel. It is impulse turbine. Okay. So here in Pelton wheel, there are different components. First is the nozzle or flow regulating arrangement, it is called. Then a runner with bucket. So runner means this circular portion which has buckets at the periphery. Then third component is the casing, and fourth one is the jet, which is also called as braking jet. So in picture you can see the nozzle. This horizontal portion is the nozzle. This circular portion is the runner. To this runner, the blades are or buckets are attached. Okay, and through the nozzle there is a jet which strikes on the blade of the runner or blades of the Pelton wheel. Okay. So water is brought to the hydraulic plant through a large penstock. The large pipe which is shown is known as penstock, and at the end of this penstock there is a nozzle which converts the pressure energy completely into kinetic energy. This will convert the liquid flow into a high speed jet which strikes the bucket or vents mounted on the runner. Okay. This is first part of this Pelton wheel. This runner in turn rotates circularly. Then the amount of water striking the vanes is controlled by the forward and backward movement of the sphere. In the nozzle, there is a sphere. So by movement of this sphere forward and backward, the amount of water striking the vane is controlled. As the water is flowing in the annular area between the nozzle and the sphere, the flow gets reduced as the sphere moves forward and vice versa. Okay, this is the function of nozzle. Then next is the runner. Runner is the circular disc which is mounted on the shaft, on the periphery of which the number of buckets are fixed equally spaced, which is shown in the figure. The buckets are made up of a cast iron, steel, then bronze or stainless steel, depending upon the head at the inlet of the turbine. So the water jet strikes the bucket on the splitter of the bucket. Splitter means the bucket is splitted into two parts. The figure is given here on right side. It is a side view of the bucket in which this bucket is divided into two halves, and the dividing part is known as splitter. Okay. So the water jet strikes the bucket on the splitter and get deflected through 165 centigrade. It means the angle is 160 to 170 degree. Okay. Then next part is the casing. So it is made up of cast iron or fabricated steel plates. The main function of the casing is to prevent splashing of water and to discharge the water into tail race. Okay. So actually this figure is not given. What is tail race? It is the end part of the Pelton wheel or any turbine where water is collected, and head race is the on the upstream side of the dam, and tail race is on the downstream side of the dam. Then next part is the braking jet. Even after the amount of water striking the bucket is completely stopped, the runner goes on rotating for a long time due to inertia. Okay. To stop the runner in a short time, a small nozzle is provided which directs the jet of water on the back of the bucket, with which rotation of the runner is reversed, and this jet is called as braking jet. Okay. So when we want to convert energy, then the jet strikes or water jet strikes on the splitter. But when we want to stop that runner, because this runner goes on rotating for a long time due to inertia, to stop that runner, we have to provide our jet from the back of the bucket, and which is called as braking jet. So here braking jet, on right side corner it is written braking. So some of the letters are missing, but on back side of this blue screen there is braking jet. So this is provided from right side corner, and it is in the opposite direction on back of the bucket. Clear? So this is actually a working of a Pelton wheel. This is actual Pelton wheel, which is used for the power generation. These are the buckets. Actually, you can see here the splitter. So the bucket is divided into two parts, and the middle part or middle ridge is known as splitter. So for design of Pelton wheel, there are some guidelines. So to calculate jet ratio, the pitch diameter of wheel is to diameter of jet. Pitch diameter means the diameter of a runner. One second. So this diameter, the dotted part, dotted circle is nothing but the diameter of a runner, pitch diameter. Okay. Then speed ratio. Speed ratio is calculated by velocity of wheel to velocity of jet. So u is the velocity of wheel and capital V is the velocity of jet. Then velocity of wheel is calculated by the formula pi dn by 60. So these formulae, I think you must know these formulae. So overall efficiency is calculated by manometric efficiency and hydraulic efficiency. So there are different efficiencies. So this hydraulic efficiency, mechanical energy efficiency, and overall efficiency. So hydraulic efficiency is the ratio of power developed by the runner of a turbine to the power supplied at the inlet of the turbine. Okay. Hydraulic efficiency is the power developed by the runner of turbine to the power supplied at the inlet of the turbine. Since the power supplied is hydraulic, the probable loss is between the striking jet and vane, and therefore the efficiency is a little bit low. So if RP is the runner power and WP is the water power, then hydraulic efficiency is RP upon WP, runner power upon water power. Okay. Then second is the mechanical efficiency. It is the ratio of power available at the shaft to the power developed by the runner of the turbine. Power available at the shaft to the power developed by the runner of the turbine, and this depends on the slips and other mechanical problems which will create a loss of energy between runner, the nozzle and the spear. Okay. So if SP is the shaft power, then mechanical efficiency is SP upon RP, and the overall efficiency is the ratio of power available at the shaft to the power supplied at the inlet of the turbine. So this efficiency is calculated as SP upon WP. SP means shaft power and WP is the water power. And the overall efficiency is hydraulic efficiency multiplied by manometric or mechanical efficiency. Okay. Then we can calculate water power, shaft power. Here formulae are given, and number of buckets. number of buckets are directly you can calculate 0.5 into jet ratio plus 15. 15 is constant. Okay. So number of bucket is depending on the pitch diameter of wheel and the diameter of jet. Okay. So the ratio of pitch diameter to diameter of jet is known as jet ratio. So this jet ratio multiplied by 0.5 plus 15 is the number of buckets for the runner of the Pelton wheel. Okay. Then specific speed. The specific speed depends on the ratio of jet diameter and the pitch diameter. Okay. So small d upon capital D is the specific speed. But when capital D upon small d, then we will get the jet ratio. Here. Okay. So this Pelton wheel is used in the hydropower generation. Then this hydraulic turbine is impulse type of turbine which is commonly used, and it is named after the American engineer Lester A. Pelton, who contributed much to its development around the year 1880. So this Pelton wheel come into picture in 1880. So after the name of this scientist or American engineer, this is known as a Pelton turbine or Pelton wheel turbine. Okay. And this efficient machine is suited to high heads. Okay. Now we have seen Pelton wheel turbine. Then we'll see quickly the governing of a Pelton wheel. We have seen a specific speed. What is specific speed? What are the design parameters? Okay. Then we'll see the governing factors of a Pelton wheel. Sorry, actually there is some problem with PC. So when a turbine drives an electrical generator, the primary requirement is that the rotational speed of the shaft and hence that the turbine rotor has to be kept fixed. The rotor should be fixed. Otherwise, the frequency of electrical output will be altered. But when the electrical load changes depending upon the demand, the speed of the turbine changes automatically. Okay. So depending upon the demand, when electrical load changes, the speed of the turbine changes automatically. This is because the external resisting torque on the shaft is altered. Torque is altered and the driving torque due to the change of momentum in the flow of the fluid through the turbine remains the same. So for example, when load is increased, the speed of the turbine decreases and vice versa. The consistency in the speed is therefore maintained by adjusting the rate of energy input to the turbine. So this is usually accomplished by changing the rate of fluid flow to the turbine, and the flow is decreased when the load is decreased. Flow is increased when load is increased. So this adjustment of flow with load is known as governing of turbines. Okay. So the adjustment of flow with respect to load is known as governing of turbines. So in case of Pelton wheel, an additional requirement for its operation at the condition of maximum efficiency is that the ratio of bucket to initial jet velocity. Ratio of bucket to initial jet velocity has to be kept at its optimum value, and this optimum value is 0.46. So hence u is fixed. U means initial velocity is fixed. V1 has to be fixed. Okay. So therefore the control must be made by a variation of cross section of the jet. The cross section of the jet which is flowing from the nozzle, so that the flow rate changes in proportion to the change in flow area, keeping the jet velocity same. So this is usually achieved by spear valve. Here in picture you can see a spear valve. There are three pictures: a high load spear, low load spear, and third one is the spear with deflector. Okay, B picture shows the deflector. So here the spear valve in the nozzle is adjusted. The movement of the spear and the axis of the nozzle changes the annular area between the spear and the housing or casing. The shape of the spear is such that the flow into the circular jet, fluid pass through the circular jet, and then effect of the spear movement is to vary the diameter of the jet. Okay. So deflectors are used along with the spear valve to prevent the serious water hammer problem due to sudden reduction in the rate of flow. So these plates temporarily deflect jet so that the entire flow does not reach the bucket. The spear valve may then be moved slowly to its new position to reduce the rate of flow in the pipeline gradually. So if bucket width is too small in relation to the jet diameter, the fluid is not smoothly deflected by the bucket, and the much energy is dissipated in turbulence, so the efficiency will considerably drop. So on the other hand, if bucket is large with respect to the jet diameter, then the effect of friction on the surface is unnecessarily high. Therefore, the optimum value of ratio of bucket width to jet diameter has to be found, and it varies from 4 to 5. So actually from this we can govern the movement or operation of turbines. Okay. So the by adjustment of flow with respect to load is known as governing of turbines, and it is achieved by movement of the sphere valve in the nozzle. Is it clear? It is actually this will not be clear when we uh, teach these topics online. Actually, the chalk and board is very important for such type of lectures. Even in case of velocity triangle, I don't know how I can explain and what you will understand in case of velocity triangle, because online teaching actually is not suitable for this practical approach, exam practical examples actually. So there are certain limitations of Pelton turbine. So Pelton wheel is efficient and reliable so the number of jets are usually limited to 4 to 6 per wheel. The increase in jet machine becomes unduly large, bulky, and slow running. So in practice, the turbines of the reaction type are more suitable for lower heads, where higher heads are there, then the Pelton wheel is suitable. Okay, so this is the limitation of Pelton wheel. Now we'll see second one is the Francis turbine. This is a Francis turbine. It is reaction turbine. So this is the actual picture of Francis turbine. So here is Francis turbine is a reaction turbine. The principal feature of the reaction turbine that distinguishes it from the impulse turbine is that only a part of total head available at the inlet of the turbine, which is converted to velocity head. Okay. So the only difference of this reaction turbine with respect to impulse turbine is that the total head available at the inlet of the turbine is converted to velocity head before the runner is used, or runner is reached. Also in the reaction turbine, the working fluid, instead of engaging only one or two blades, completely fills the passages in the runner. The pressure, which is called a static head of the fluid, changes gradually as it passes through the runner, along with the change in its kinetic energy based on absolute velocity due to impulse action between fluid and the runner. So the cross-sectional, therefore, the cross-sectional area of the flow through the passage of fluid, and this turbine is well suited for low heads. And this is radial flow hydraulic turbine, and it is first developed by American engineer James Francis, and this is in 1852-92, and this turbine is named after him as the Francis turbine. Okay. So here you can see in picture spiral casing, then horizontal, it is mounted on shaft, it's called runner. Then stay vanes are given in this spiral casing, and the draft tube is provided. So there are mainly four components: spherical casing, then guide or stay vanes, then runner blades, and draft tube. So casing, it is most of these machines have a vertical shaft, although some smaller machines of this type have horizontal shaft. The fluid enters from the penstock. Penstock means the pipeline leading to the turbine from the reservoir at high altitude to a spiral casing, which completely surrounds the runner. This casing is known as scroll casing or volute. Okay. Then the cross-sectional area of this casing decreases uniformly along the circumference to keep the fluid velocity constant in magnitude along its path. Okay. So here the you can see the first picture here in lower corner. The diameter of casing or is going on decreasing. To keep the fluid velocity constant along its path towards the guide vanes. Okay, here guide vanes and stay vanes are shown. This is because the rate of flow along the fluid path in the volute decreases due to the continuous entry of the fluid to the runner through the opening of the guide vanes or stay vanes. Okay. So what are the guide or stay vanes? The basic purpose of guide vanes or stay vanes is to convert a part of pressure energy to the fluid at its entrance into the kinetic energy, and then to direct the fluid on to the number of runner blades at an angle appropriate to the design. So the guide vanes are pivoted and can be turned by a suitable governing mechanism to regulate the flow while the load changes. These guide vanes are also known as wicket gates. So these guide vanes impart a tangential velocity and hence an angular momentum to the water before its entry to the runner. Okay. So the flow in the runner of Francis turbine is not purely radial, but a combination of radial and tangential. So the flow is inward from the periphery to towards the center. So the height of runner depends on the specific speed. The height increases with the increase in the specific speed. The main direction of flow changes as water passes through the runner and is finally turned into axial direction while entering the draft tube. So lower part there is a draft tube, and this draft tube is a known as conduit which connects the runner exit to the tail race. Tail race is the tank where the water is stored on the downstream side. So the draft tube is a conduit which connects runner exit to the tail race where water is being finally discharged from the turbine. So the primary function of draft tube is to reduce the velocity of water, discharge water, to minimize the loss of kinetic energy at the outlet. This permits the turbine to be set above the tail water without any appreciable drop of available head. Okay. So it is very important for the design of the turbine. So purpose of providing a draft tube will be uh, the purpose of providing this draft tube is to minimize the loss of kinetic energy at the outlet, kinetic energy of discharge water at the outlet. So net head across a reaction turbine and the purpose to providing a draft tube. Here next slide is of that. Net head across a reaction turbine and the purpose to providing a draft tube. Here on extreme left part, this horizontal line shows the headrest. Okay. Here on the right side, tail race is given. The 3 number is shown. That level is known as tail race. Okay. So HG on left side, it is gross head. So here we'll see one by one, each term one by one. So total, the effective head across any turbine is the difference between head at the inlet to the machine and the head at the outlet of the machine. Okay. So the effective head here you can see on right side, the effective head of any turbine is the difference between the head at inlet and head at the outlet. So reaction turbine always runs completely filled with the working fluid. So the tube that connects the end of the runner to tail race is known as draft tube, and it should completely be filled with the working water flowing through it. So the kinetic energy of fluid finally discharged into the tail race is wasted. So the draft tube is made divergent so that to reduce the velocity at outlet to a minimum. So the discharge velocity should be minimum. Therefore, this draft tube is divergent. The cross section of the draft tube is different at top and bottom. So therefore, the draft tube is basically a diffuser and should be designed properly with the angle between the walls of the tube, which is limited to the 8 degree so as to prevent the flow separation from the wall and to reduce accordingly the loss of energy in the tube. So here total head Hg at the entrance of the turbine can be found by applying Bernoulli's equation between the free surface of the reservoir and inlet of the turbine. So here we can say that, I don't know formula written or not. Sorry. So H1 here on right side, H1 is the total head at the entrance of the turbine, and this is found by Bernoulli's equation, by applying Bernoulli's equation. So here H1 is the H0 minus HF, or HO minus HF. Here on left hand side, HO is given, and H1 is HO minus HF. HF means the loss of head due to friction. Okay. And this loss due to friction in the pipe connecting the reservoir and the turbine. So since the draft tube is a part of turbine, the net head across the turbine for the conversion of mechanical work is the difference of total head at the inlet to the machine. And so H is equal to the total head at inlet to machine minus total head at discharge. So it is calculated as HO minus HF minus V3 square by 2G. So here V3 square is the loss at the outlet, V3 square by 2G. Okay. So here actually formulae are not written in the PPT. That's why you might have not understood this part. Okay. The pressures are defined in the terms of values above the atmospheric pressure. So simply you have to keep in mind that H1 is the difference between HO, that is head at reservoir, minus HF. HF is the loss of head due to friction, and net head is H1 minus V3 square by 2G. This is again loss at the outlet. So net head is equal to HO minus HF minus V3 square by 2G. So next is the runner of the Francis turbine. Here you can see the runner which is fixed in the Francis turbine. So this shape of the blades of a Francis runner is very complex. So exact shape depend on its specific speed. So from equation of a specific speed, this shape or diameter is calculated. The higher specific speed means lower head. Higher specific speed means lower head. This requires that the runner should admit a comparatively large quantity of water for a given power output. Okay. So at the same time, the velocity of discharge at runner outlet should be small to avoid cavitation. We'll see what is cavitation. So in purely radial flow runner, the bulk flow is in radial direction. So to be more clear, the flow is tangential and radial at the inlet, but is entirely radial with a negligible tangential component at the outlet. The flow under this situation has to make a 90-degree turn, 90-degree turn after passing through the rotor for its inlet to draft tube. So this is actually very complicated principle. So this is flow area is small, there is a limit to capacity of this type of runner in keeping the low exit velocity. So actually, this the design is very complicated, and it leads to the design of a mix flow runner, where water is turned from the radial to axial direction in the rotor itself. So at the outlet of this type of runner, the flow is almost axial, but at the runner, the flow is radial. The flow turns from radial to axial, but in outlet, the flow is axial. Okay. So because of the large discharge area, this type of runner can pass a large amount of water with a low exit velocity from the runner. So the blades of a reaction turbine are always so shaped that the tangential or whirling component of the velocity at the outlet becomes zero. And this is made to keep the kinetic energy at the outlet minimum. Okay. So this is the function of a runner. So there are some guidelines for design of Francis turbine. Velocity of wheel is calculated by same formula pi dn upon 60. Then work done per second or power is calculated by the formula rho into q in bracket Vw1 u1 plus minus Vw2 u2, where Vw1 is the whirl velocity, u1 is the initial velocity, and Vw2 is the whirl velocity at the outlet. So velocity of wheel u1, u2, you can calculate it by the formula. Then discharge q is calculated by pi d1 v1 vf1, which is equal to pi d2 v2 vf2. d1 d2 is the diameter at the inlet and outlet. Then vf1 is the flow velocity at inlet, vf2 is the flow velocity at outlet. Next one is the Kaplan turbine. Will move faster. So this Kaplan turbine is again a reaction type turbine. So higher specific speed correspond to the lower head. This requires that the runner should admit a comparatively large quantity of water. And in this, for the runner of the given diameter, the maximum flow rate is achieved when the flow is parallel to the axis. And such a machine is known as axial flow reaction turbine. And it is developed by Australian engineer Victon Kaplan. So here you can see the Kaplan turbine in the PPT. Here it is the Kaplan turbine. So here again we have to calculate velocity of wheel, work done per second. Formula are given. Velocity of flow at inlet and outlet, the discharge, and flow rate. So specific speed of the turbine is the speed at which a turbine will run when developing unit power under a unit head. Okay. So when the turbine will run by developing unit power under unit head, and this type of speed is known as a specific speed. So the formula is given: ns specific speed is equal to n under root p by h to the power 5 by 4. Where p is the power and h is the head of the turbine. So here there are some unit quantities of speed, discharge, and power. Unit means one, for under the head of 1 meter. So unit speed is the speed of turbine working under unit head. Unit power is the power developed by a turbine working under a unit head, and unit discharge is the discharge of turbine working under a unit head. So all these terms are for the unit head, that means 1 meter head. So here we can find out the unit speed, discharge, and power by applying these formulae. Again, the turbine are classified as Pelton wheel, Francis turbine, and Kaplan turbine. We have seen this. The for Pelton wheel, just for a revision, Pelton wheel works under high head, then with low discharge, direction of flow is tangential, and specific speed is low. For Francis turbine, there is medium head 60 to 150 meter, discharge is medium, and direction of flow is radial and mixed flow. The specific speed is medium. And for a Kaplan turbine, the head is low, discharge is very high, and direction of flow is axial. Specific speed is very, very high, that is 300 to 1000. Now, quickly we'll see what is pump. So pump is a hydraulic machine which converts mechanical energy into hydraulic energy or pressure energy. Asif sir, can I extend for 10-15 minutes?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Within 15 minutes, we'll complete this. Okay.
No issue, ma'am. No issue, ma'am.
Okay. So centrifugal pump works on a principle of centrifugal force. And in this type of pump, the liquid is subjected to whirling motion by rotating the impeller, which is made a number of backward curve vents. Then the liquid enters into the impeller at its center, or it is also called as eye, and get discharged into a casing enclosing outer edge of the impeller. So the centrifugal pumps are made up of radial flow type only. So there are different types of pumps according to the number of impellers. It is single stage pump, multi-stage pump. According to the position of shaft, it is vertical and horizontal shaft. According to head, low head, medium head, and high specific head turbine, the heads values are given. So the centrifugal pump containing two or more impeller are called multi-stage centrifugal pump. So it may be in series or in parallel. The impellers are connected in series or in parallel. When the impellers are connected in series, it gives high pressure at outlet. For higher flow output, the impellers are connected in parallel. So this is the schematic diagram of centrifugal pump. There are different types of heads. These are the components: strainer and foot valve, suction pipe and its fitting, pump. We'll see quickly. So the impeller is the rotating component of the pump, and it is made up of series of curved vents. The impeller is mounted on the shaft connecting an electric motor. So middle part of this diagram is the impeller. Here you can see it is actually a very light figure, but I think you are able to read from this figure. Impeller is the central part of the pump. Here is the impeller. Then you can see the casing. Casing is an airtight chamber surrounding the impeller. The shape of the casing is designed in such a way that the kinetic energy of the impeller is gradually changed to the potential energy head. So this is achieved by gradually increasing the area of cross section in the direction of flow. Here you can see the cross sectional area is changed. The cross sectional area of the casing is changed. The suction pipe is the pipe connecting to the pump to the sump from where the liquid has to be lifted. Then foot valve with a strainer is an non-return valve which permits the flow of liquid from sump towards the pump. In other words, the foot valve opens only in the upward direction, and the strainer is the mesh surrounding the valve to prevent the entry of debris or silt into the pump. Then delivery pipe, which is connected at the top, it is the pipe to pump to the overhead tank, which is connected to the pump from centrifugal pump to overhead tank. So, and delivery valve is the valve which can regulate the flow of the liquid from the pump. So, initially the priming of centrifugal pump should be done. What is priming? Priming is the process of filling the suction pipe, a casing of the pump, and then the delivery pipe up to the delivery valve with the liquid to be pumped. So priming is the filling of water in the suction pipe, casing, and the delivery pump. If priming is not done, the pump cannot deliver the liquid due to the fact that the head generated at the impeller will be in terms of meters of air, which will be very small. So priming of the pump can be done by any one method of the given method. I think it is written. So no, it is not mentioned here. So the priming of the centrifugal pump can be done with a suction or a vacuum pump. Then it can be done with the jet pump. This priming with separator can be done, and automatic or self priming can also be done. Now we'll see what are the different heads in a centrifugal pump. We have a suction head. It is the vertical distance between the liquid level in the sump and the center line of the pump. It is expressed in meter. Then delivery head, it is the vertical distance between the center line of the pump and the liquid level in the overhead tank. Then static head is the difference between the liquid level in the overhead tank and the sump when the pump is not working. So HS is equal to static head plus delivery head. Then friction head, HF, is the sum of the head loss due to the friction in the suction and the delivery pipe. And HF is calculated by Darcy's equation, FLV square by 2GD. And the total head is the sum of the static head, friction head, and the velocity head at the delivery pipe. Total head is the sum of static head plus friction head plus velocity head in the delivery pipe. And then we have manometric head. This manometric head is the head developed by the pump, total head developed by the pump. So this head is slightly less than the head generated at the impeller due to some losses in the pump. The specific speed of the centrifugal pump is defined as the speed of the geometrically similar pump which would deliver 1 cubic meter of the liquid per second against a head of 1 meter. Just similar to the turbine, formula is quite different. Ns is equal to n under root q. Here discharge is given divided by hm. This is manometric head to the power 3/4. There are certain operation difficulties in a centrifugal pump. So this pump fails due to the fluid in the pump. It does not give the required capacity if it has poor efficiency, and it can stop working due to any of the reason. Okay, so these are some difficulties in the centrifugal pump. We cannot go in detail because of lack of time. We have already crossed the limit. So there are some efficiencies of centrifugal pump. This manometric efficiency is the ratio of manometric head to the head actually generated at the inlet. Then mechanical efficiency is the ratio of impeller power to the power of the motor. And the overall efficiency is the ratio of work done by the pump in lifting water against gravity and the friction in the pipe to the energy supplied to the motor. So these are the 3 types of efficiencies. Now quickly we will see what is how velocity triangle is drawn. We'll take only one case here for Pelton wheel. Here in Pelton wheel, the bucket is divided into 2 parts, and the jet of the water directly strikes on a splitter. Splitter is the divider of the bucket. So jet horizontally strikes on a bucket here at C, and then it equally distributed on the blades or vents. Okay, so V1 here it is written as V1 is the absolute velocity of jet of water at the inlet. Then U1 is the when velocity. When velocity means when a jet strikes on the splitter, the when moves, that blade moves. There is movement of the blade. So this blade moves with a velocity of V1. V1 is small as compared to the U1 is small as compared to the V1. V1 is the velocity, absolute velocity of the jet. So jet strikes on the blade. Means ये देखो, this is horizontal. Velocities are shown horizontal because the jet strikes horizontally. U1 and V1 ये दोनों ही एक ही डायरेक्शन में मूव कर रहे, हॉरिजॉन्टल डायरेक्शन में. ओके, सो V1 is the velocity of jet and U1 is the velocity of vane. Both are moving. Okay, so there is a relative velocity at inlet. And what is that relative velocity? It is the difference between these two, V1 minus U1. Initial velocity of jet minus initial velocity of vane or blade. Okay, so since the jet strikes right, so VR1 is relative velocity. It is V1 minus U1. If the velocity is inclined, here it is horizontal. So if velocity is inclined, then there are two components of velocity. One is horizontal component and another is the vertical component. So this horizontal component is called as whirl component, whirl velocity, and this vertical component is called flow velocity or flow component. Okay, so since the jet is striking horizontally, the vertical component is 0, Vf is 0. So here only horizontal component will be there. So V1 is equal to Vw1, which is called as whirl component or whirl velocity. Then अब देखो आप जो when it strikes on a splitter, the flow divides into two parts, and this will move with radial velocity Vr2. Okay, so here so Vr1 ये water अंदर से बाहर निकल रहा है, outlet पे जा रहा है. Okay, so that we will denote as Vr2. And this here the at the same time the movement of vane is with respect to is horizontal. Okay, and this will be displaced by velocity u2. Here horizontal, in horizontal direction we have written u2. So this Vr2 and V2 makes absolute velocity V2. Clear? अगर blade smooth है तो there will not be any loss of velocity, and Vr1 is equal to Vr2. Since the vane is moving horizontally, u2 will be horizontal, and उसके relation में क्या आएगा? V2. Okay, Vr1 और ut के relation में आएगा V2, which is called as absolute velocity of at the outlet, and it will be inclined. Since V2 is inclined, it has two components. One is vertical and another is horizontal. So vertical component is known as flow velocity or flow component, and it is denoted by Vf2. And horizontal component, here is the horizontal component, and that is called as Vw2, whirl component or whirl velocity. Okay. Now, at what angle they are deflecting, that should be know. जब भी student ये problem solve करते velocity diagram, they are actually confused with the angles. There are 4 angles. These angles are alpha, beta. Alpha, beta are the guide blade angles, and there is theta and phi. These theta and phi are called as vane angles. Okay, so alpha and beta are called guide blade angles, and theta and phi are called as vane angles. So alpha and theta, these are at inlet. यदि ये inlet पे inclined होता, then we have to draw velocity triangle at inlet also. Okay, then the theta comes in picture. Clear? Alpha and theta comes in picture. Okay, here since the jet is horizontal, we will have only beta and phi. These two angles are at the outlet, where beta is the guide blade angle and phi is the vane angle. So the अब ये यहाँ क्या होता है? Guide blade angle absolute velocity बनाती है. Guide blade angle absolute velocity बनाती है with respect to horizontal velocity u. U is the direction of or velocity of vane. Okay, So here at inlet alpha and theta is 0, but at outlet में क्या होता है, ये रिलेटिव वेलोसिटी और u के साथ जो एंगल बना है v minus u is equal to phi. What is phi? Phi is the Venn angle, and beta is the angle between absolute velocity and world velocity. Horizontal in horizontal direction there is world velocity. Okay. So here beta is the angle between when beta is called Venn angle, जो वर्ल्ड वेलोसिटी बनाती है, सॉरी एब्सोल्यूट वेलोसिटी बनाती है. ठीक है. पहला क्या है, फाई है ना. व्हाट इज फाई? फाई इज द एंगल बिटवीन relative velocity and the horizontal velocity, and beta is the angle between absolute velocity and world velocity. Is it clear? I think this will not be clear unless and until I can taught you on blackboard and chalk. Okay. So just I am trying to make you understand this concept. This concept is very, very important from great point of view. So here the inlet velocity is horizontal, and the jet is moving on the curved surface at the outlet. Okay. So when we extend this direction of relative velocity on horizontal axis, then we'll get angle of deflection. So the jet is deflected at this angle. It is shown on right side. Okay. So this most of the time this angle of deflection is given in the problem, and then you have to calculate this theta and beta. Okay. So this angle of deflection is very, very important from a numerical point of view. Okay. So uh, that's how we can calculate the velocity triangle. We have seen just one example, but this part is very, very important from gate point of view. Okay. Now, thank you for your patient listening. If you have any question, you can ask. Thank you, Asif sir. If anybody have any question, then they can unmute and ask me. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Asif sir.
Hello. Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking such wonderful lecture and sharing your knowledge with us. And it is really appreciable that you have covered a very vast topic in a very expedited time. So I'm keeping this session open for the question answer session. If you have any queries, students, please feel free to ask.
Actually, this topic is very, very vast, and this is not a topic to teach on the PPT. Actually, this is
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
injustice.
This topic, yes, ma'am. This topic requires blackboard.
When we yes, sir.
I'm saying that this topic requires
Yes.
blackboard, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Actually, I am not satisfied with this lecture from my side. Yes, any question, please, you can ask.
Okay, I think there is no question from student side. So
Okay,
we
then
will conclude this session, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes.
स्टूडेंट्स, एम आई ऑडिबल? थोड़ा नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम है आज, पता नहीं मेरी आवाज आ रही है नहीं आ रही?
आ रही है सर।
आ रही है। अरे तुम लोगों का क्या प्रॉब्लम है रे भाई? तुम क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछते, तुम रिस्पॉन्स नहीं देते। बहुत सारे कंप्लेंट आ रहे हैं मुझे तुम्हारे, तुमको लेकर के। मैं पूरा लेक्चर अटेंड करता हूँ ये 1.5-2 घंटे का, और साथ साथ में मैं पैरेलल एकेडमिक्स के भी काम कर रहा हूँ आप लोगों के लिए। तब भी मेरा ध्यान रहता है, एक भी क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछता, एक भी डाउट नहीं पूछता। मतलब ये लगा के बैठे हुए हैं, सुन नहीं रहे हैं। अब वो जितने मतलब अ, बड़े लोग हैं, उनके लोग सेमिनार रखते हैं, और अपने आप वो अगर पढ़ा रहे हैं तो तुमको समझना चाहिए कि एक्चुअली इट इज ब्लेसिंग। और आप लोगों को पता नहीं, समझ में नहीं आ रहा। मतलब मुझे मुझे एक्चुअली जानना है कि रीजन क्या है। मतलब 20 लोग, 22 लोग, 180 की स्ट्रेंथ है अपनी। 180 में से 60 माइनस करो सेकंड ईयर के। 120 में से 20 और 22 लोग, 100 लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? फिर से खामोशी छा गई। अरे भाई मैं पूछ रहा हूँ ना आप लोगों से। अब आप लोग बोलेंगे कि सर हम लोग तो आ रहे हैं, हम लोग से क्यों पूछ रहे हैं? तो भाई इंक्वायरी करो कि भाई जो लोग नहीं आ रहे वो क्यों नहीं आ रहे। मुझे पता तो चले कि मुझे क्या करना चाहिए। एक्चुअली क्या है, ये ऑनलाइन से मैं भी बहुत ज्यादा परेशान हो गया हूँ। मुझे ना मतलब डांटने में भी मजा नहीं आ रहा। मतलब बोलने की भी इच्छा ही नहीं होती, क्या बोलूँ मैं, क्योंकि सुन रहे हैं नहीं सुन रहे, आई डोंट नो। हर चीज के लिए मुझे तुमको बोलना पड़ रहा है, पता नहीं क्या हो गया। तो अभी आप लोगों के नेक्स्ट वीक में मिड टर्म एग्जामिनेशन है 15 तारीख से। तो आप लोगों को पता ही होगा कि 2 यूनिट सेकंड थर्ड यूनिट पूछे जाएंगे, ठीक है, और एमसीक्यू बेस रहेंगे। एमसीक्यू जो भी रहेगा आप लोगों को प्रोवाइड किया जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ प्रोसीजर है। और उसी के हिसाब से आपको क्वेश्चनर जो है वो पूछा जाएगा, है ना। 50 क्वेश्चन दिए जाएंगे आपको, उसमें से 20 क्वेश्चन पूछे जाएंगे। तो पढ़ना है वही, और एग्जाम जो है वो अच्छे से अटेंड करना है, ठीक है। बाकी अभी रहा सवाल अटेंडेंस का। 1 मिनट मुझे अटेंडेंस लेने दो। मैंने लिंक डाला है, लिंक शायद आप लोगों को मिली होगी। कुछ लोगों ने रिस्पांस दिया और उसके बाद में छोड़ गए। मैं एनालिसिस करूंगा किन लोगों ने बीच में छोड़ दिया सेशन। अगर आपको लिंक नहीं मिली है तो मैं फिर से लिंक डाल रहा हूँ। यस,